Hello. Hello and welcome. Welcome to Around the Town with Mark. I am Mark Whalen, your host, and yes, we are always glad to have you tune in and visit with us. Well, if you watched my last show, and I certainly hope you did, you are aware that coming May 1st, we have our local elections. And in particular this year, for the first time in 6 years, we are going to be electing a new mayor to the city of Groton. My last guest was the Republican candidate, Harry Watson, and today I have the Democratic candidate for the City of Groton mayor position, Keith Hedrick. So allow me to introduce Keith Hedrick to you. Keith, welcome to Around the Town with Mark.
Thank you, Mark.
Well, we're very glad to have you today. And I would like to start by having you sort of introduce yourself to my viewers and tell us a little bit about what is the Keith Hedrick experience.
Thank you very much, and thank you for giving me this opportunity. Well, my name is Keith Hedrick, and I grew up in North Carolina. And after high school, I joined the Navy, and I'm a 23-year Navy submarine veteran. I retired in 2000.
Well, thank you for your service.
Thank you. And during that period of time, I was afforded the opportunity to get my undergraduate degree through Southern Illinois University. I also finished my MBA through Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, and I was commissioned through the LDO program, Limited Duty Officer program in the Navy. While I was here, the first time I was here, I married a local girl from Norwich. We've been married 26 years.
Congratulations.
And we came back and settled here in 1994. And when I retired in 2000, I started working for a local government contractor. I've been the operations manager there for 16 and a half years. And from the political side, I've served I got my start in the Harbor Management Commission on the city. And then I served on the RTM in both Districts 2 and District 3. And for the last 7 years, I've been on the city council. And the last 2 years, I have been the deputy mayor for the city of Groton.
You're one busy guy.
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
You got a lot going on.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Yeah. So what brought you around to deciding this go around to run for the position of mayor of the city of Groton?
That's a good question. I think the city of Groton is a great place to live, work, and play. We've said that before, but I truly believe that. My wife and I lived on the corner of Monument and Spicer, and we ended up moving. But when we moved from one side of the city to the other side, and we now live on Shanticosset Parkway. Actually, we live right across the street from Harry Watson. So,
oh, really?
My opponent. So,
Hope you're friendly neighbors.
Yeah, we are. There are lots of. It's a very politically active neighborhood, but it's a very good neighborhood. But continuing on, we have beaches and parks and a waterfront access. I love that, but one of the concerns that I have is that I do think that there is a move afoot by the town for consolidation of the city and town. And the reason I say that is because the mayor of the town has went on local radio station and has said, as long as he's involved in politics, he will not stop until the city and town are 100% consolidated. And one of the things people talk about is that, well, the town doesn't talk to or the city doesn't talk to this town. And one of the things my opponent says is that he can talk with the town. Well, he sits on the right-hand side of the mayor. And in the process of doing that, he provides him with counsel. And he has been on the town council for 26 years, but he's never served in the city of Groton. So there were many things that he talked about that I'll have to take a look at that. And I'm not sure about, but I've heard about. I know about these things. I've been here for 7 years. I've served on the city council for 7 years. I've been the deputy mayor for the last 2 years. And one of the things that my opponent had a concern was to end the one-party rule in the city of Groton. It is true that the Democrats have controlled the city of Groton for 20 years, but what people fail to mention is that the town of Groton has been controlled by the Republican Party for the last 30 years, with the exception of 2 years ago. And so if the Republicans now take over the city, then they will own the city and the town, and that makes consolidation 100% easier. And my big concern with consolidation is there is no plan. And that's a huge problem that I have, and the city has not been invited to the table.
So you would then obviously be using your position, you would be working with the town, but to try to make changes with how the town council deals with the city of Groton.
Right, absolutely. I have no problem working with the town. The town has not really afforded us an opportunity. The town they legislate to the city, and they don't recognize us as a separate municipal entity, and that we're equal to them. And that's one of the challenges that I have and one of the concerns that I have. But we definitely need to look at services. Are there ways that we can have shared services and look for efficiencies and things like that? But my concern is going to be for the city, for protecting the city, so that the city, one, does not lose her identity, and also that the city does not lose services. That is very important to me, particularly with the roads and highways and the police.
Well, I know that there's been some budget cuts in the city of Groton, so certain things have had to be cut. And you just brought up one topic that I know I discussed on the previous show with the Republican candidate, and that was the roads.
Right.
And in particular, my example was Thomas Road,
Right.
and how the city and the town just can't seem to get together on that,
Right.
and how the city paved it up to that one line, and then the rest of it's a disaster.
Right.
And do you see yourself being able to work with the town to get the town to act? I mean, we've heard also that there's going to be a bike path added, but that's been
Right.
kicked around for a very long time.
The Thomas Road specifically has been going around for a long time. It's going to require state money. I don't think it's going to require any federal money, but Mark Offinger, the town manager, has looked at that and it's on a list, and they're trying to get it done. I don't know when they're going to get it done.
Okay.
Where it impacts the city specifically is during budgeting for roads and highways. In 2016, the town council cut us $830,000, and that was voted on and agreed to by my opponent and by one of the councilors that is also running for city council here in this election. So my concern with that is they're running to run the city, but they vote to cut funding to the city that hurts the city, and that doesn't make sense to me. In addition to that, we went to arbitration. We won arbitration, and the town just paid us the money in December. We have put that money in the general fund, so there's issues, some concerns from the taxpayers. We're going to get that money back. The money goes to the general fund to offset the taxes, so your taxes don't go up. If you look at 2017, our taxes in the city did not go up, and the town still cut us $738,000. And the reason they cut us in 2017 is because they said, we have to cut you because we haven't been through arbitration yet, and if we do something different, you'll use that against us. So that was their rationale, and then they still haven't paid us the money for 2017 yet, even though we won arbitration. You fast forward to 2018, we had a meeting of the 3 and 3, which is 3 town councilors, 3 city councilors, and we actually made sausage that night. I was the lead for the city. We talked to the town councilors. And the mayor was there. The mayor of the town was there, and the mayor of the city was there. And we agreed that we were going to take a 5% cut because we understand the austere situation that we're in now with funding. And the councilors agreed to that. We go to the council of the whole, the budget meeting on Saturday, and the mayor says, I was there, I saw what you guys did, but I don't support that, and as a result, I think we should cut $738,000 again because we haven't completed arbitration. Well, we didn't go back to arbitration because the DOT representative recommended that we get together, we put out a statement of work, an RFP rather, so that we could get somebody to analyze the differences between the city and the town. The town assertion is that the city's not doing it right because we do it differently. But that just because we do it differently doesn't mean that we're doing it wrong. And that's what the DOT representative said. So we're going to get somebody eventually to come in, they're going to do a comparison, and until then, we still need them to pay us the money for 2017, which they're looking at. And in the end, after much discussion, the council, agreed to just cutting us 5% this year on roads and highways.
I know it was in the paper today that the police budget is also being cut.
Well, and that's that's another thing. We go to talk to the council. We say, okay, we understand you're gonna cut everything by 5%. We're okay with that. We don't have a problem with that. But then we get there, and the mayor says, no, we're not. We never said we were going to cut everything 5%. And for their police, they increased their police budget by 0.4%, and yet they cut us 7%. So we're like, well, where's the parity in that? Where's the equity and the fairness in that? And his response was that he looks at the town police differently than he does the city police. And that's evidenced by the fact that they cut us 7%. And during that period of time, my opponent and the other counselor that is running for city council never voiced opposition. They never said, yes, but this is about the city. You got to look at safety. You got to have parity. None of that ever come up. Now, in the very end, they put their hands up and voted against it. But by that time, the town council already had the votes that they needed to push it through. But that's another example of how the town talks to the city. They just legislate. They don't want to sit down and make sausage, and yet when they go to the newspapers and everywhere else, they say the city won't communicate with the town. And I am ready to sit down with anybody that wants to sit down and work out our differences, if the town is willing to do that. But communication doesn't mean that I'm going to submit to everything that they want, because, again, they're worried about the town, and they say, oh, if you're in a city, you're in a town. I understand. But I'm worried about making sure the city is not treated unfairly. That's what's important to me.
Well, you've sort of touched on where I was going with my next question, and that is, obviously, from what you're saying, there's a great deal of work to do on the relationship between the city and the town. There is. And there's a lot that from what you're saying, has to be fixed before these things get done. And so you are then prepared, as you go forward as the mayor, to make these repairs for the relationship between the city and town so these things can get done? Absolutely. Because what's happening is we keep fighting amongst each other, and we end up in court. And so what's happening is the city residents and the town residents end up paying for court fees. One of the things that people forget is the city provides 30% of the tax base for the town. We ask for 4% back in the form of roads and highways and the police budget. If you're a city resident, you pay for town police that you don't use. You pay for Parks and Rec that you may or may not use. You pay for planning that you don't use. And people say, well, then you need to get rid of redundant services. My answer to that is the town police doesn't come into the city. The city police doesn't go into the town. We have, when the police study was done, the police study said that the amount of police that we have for the city is appropriate for the city, and the amount of police they have for the town is appropriate for the town. So I don't understand why there is this move afoot to consolidate the city and the town. In anything, not just police and not just roads and highways. But the reason they want to do that is if they take over roads and highways and police, then they don't have to give us anything. So the city would give them everything, all the tax base, and the town would not have to return anything to the city. And that just doesn't seem fair and equitable to me. Well, and I would say, as a resident of the city, and again, from what I'm hearing you say, is the people who are suffering here, that aren't getting the services that they need, are the residents of the city. But a lot of that has to do with the fact that the city and the town can't work very well together. Right. And as long as they can't work well together, the residents of the city of Groton aren't going to be getting the types of services and road repair that we all look for. Right. And that's why I say I am ready to sit down with anybody in the town that wants to talk. The councilors, the town manager. One of the first people that I'm going to call is the town manager to talk to him. I will also call the mayor of the town to set up an appointment and talk to him and see if there's places that we can agree on, and if there are things that we can't agree on, then listen to his ideas, see if he'll listen to mine, and see if we can get somewhere in the middle. I have a reputation from the RTM of being able to take disparate groups and get them closer to the middle
so that we can communicate and a resolution starts instead of having gridlock. And that's what we need between the city and the town.
So you will then be the one that reaches out to all these people that you want to sit down with,
Yes, sir.
and make those meetings happen.
Absolutely.
All right.
I will.
All right.
You
Well,
can hold me to that.
I will, and I think all our viewers will as well.
That's good.
Yeah, well, you said that, yes, indeed, the city of Groton is a great place to live, to work, and
is.
to
It's
play.
wonderful.
We have so many wonderful things that the city has to offer our residents. Tell us a little bit more about other changes, perhaps, that you see that you would like to make in the city to make life even better.
Well,
Are there other things besides the few that we've talked about,
Sure,
the police and
there
the
are.
roads?
but before we go, one of the things that I didn't get an opportunity to do is I wanted to introduce my team, because
please do.
that is important.
Very important, please.
Because for me, it is about the team. And for me, the team is more important than any one person on the team, and that includes me. And I have a tremendous team. We have Deb Patrick, who's a city clerk. She's been a city clerk for 18 years.
And she does a marvelous job.
Absolutely, she
Yep.
does.
Yep.
We have two new members. We have Jamal Beckford, who grew up here. Jamal went to college. He came back. He works for Electric Boat. He's an engineer on the new Columbia-class submarine. We have Rashad Carter. Rashad grew up here, and Rashad is a state trooper. And then currently on the council, we have Larry Garish, who is a retired police chief here. We have Conrad Heed, who works for the Marriott. He's currently on the council. We have Jill Russ, who works for the Mash and Tuckets and in their child services. And we have Stephen Sheffield, who works at Stop and Shop, but also is a law clerk over in New London. So we have, if you look at our team, we have a rich, diverse team that represents the city. And I'm talking about culturally, I'm talking experience-wise, I'm talking ideas and philosophies, and that's going to make for great spirited debate in order to analyze things and how are we going to go forward. And every one of these candidates are committed to the city of Groton, and they are committed to working with the town counterparts to try to get us past this divide that we have. And it's going to take everybody. And it is going to be a challenge, but if we work together, if everybody works together, and we can let our guards down a little bit, we're going to be able to make this better, make it better for everybody. Not just for the city, not just for the town, but both for the city and the town.
What is your favorite thing about living in the city of Groton? Do you have one particular outstanding feature of the city that you would say makes you proud to live in the city of Groton?
Well, we have wonderful waterfront access. Our beaches are great. You go down to the Tyler House in the summer, you can get a cheap hot dog, you can get ice cream. You go down to the Zabierski House, you have a wonderful view. You can see Avery Point, and we have that access here. You can see the submarines come in. You can watch the sunset. I mean, our amenities here are beautiful. Now, we have great services too. We have the police and the roads and highways. Our roads get plowed, and we also have sanitation, garbage pickup, sanitation services, recycling, and that's something that the town doesn't have. But that is something that we have. So that's good for us. But if you talk about the one thing, it would probably have to be the waterfront access and the beaches, because that is just a wonderful asset that we're blessed with here in the city.
One question I asked your opponent on the show before, and I'll ask this to you as well. We discussed Thames Street, and I mentioned how that seems to be a really tough nut to crack to get. Everybody's been trying to get Thames Street redeveloped and back to what it was.
Absolutely.
Do you have any ideas as to how you could try to make that finally happen?
Yes. Well, first of all, let me tell you what we're doing. Okay. One of our platforms is increase economic development and job growth. And I was the chairperson on the Community and Economic Development Committee. And that led to the EDC, the Economic Development Commission. And the Economic Development Commission is doing a lot of things for Thames Street and for Five Corners. But we're following our plan of conservation and development. We're following that. We have revised our planning and zoning regulations to bring them up to date and to make them easier to follow. This is something that the town is doing as well. But we started that a couple years ago because we recognize that sometimes our regulations are hard to follow. We also are trying to streamline our process for application and permitting. One of the challenges we have is you got to go here, then you got to go here, then you got to go here. My question is, why can't we do them, instead of have to do them one right after the other, why can't we do them in parallel? Can we do them at the same time? That'll shorten the time. We're also designing a booklet, and I think the booklet is ready for print, but it's basically doing business in Groton. Because what happens is, let's say, for example, I want to open a shop, and I know how to bake cookies. I'm a great cookie baker, but I don't know anything about zoning and permits and electric and water and all those things. And I go to the city and say, I need help. In the past, we've kind of, there you go. Now we'll have this booklet and it'll say, here's what's required. Here's this process. Here's who you need to contact. And it's going to make it easier for people, particularly small businesses, to do these things.
How-to book, if you will.
Absolutely. Yep. We've also revised our blight ordinances to make it more effective. We came up with a blight ordinance and then we revised it again to put more teeth in it. We now get the state involved so that, because the state has deeper pockets, so the state gets involved and they take the property owners to task, because we have had some issues on Thames Street with some property owners that had blighted issues. And we also have a blight officer. His name is Dale Grinsteiner, and he is helping us with the blight and with things in the wintertime when people aren't shoveling sidewalks and things like that. But if you were to look at the city today and look at the city 5 years ago, you will see a huge difference in blight.
Well, there's no sense in having an ordinance or having a rule if it's not enforced.
Exactly.
It's waste.
We are working on Thames Street in Five Corners. We have the Thames River Heritage Park. We have the water taxi that we have. We're working with Thames River Innovation Places. So we're teaming with the town and the city of New London to get grants which would allow small technology startups on both sides of the river. We have applied for a grant for a large-scale development plan for Thames Street. We've had some ideas, but if we can get a large-scale development plan, then we might be able to get investors to come and look at what we need to do down on Thames Street in addition. We've developed the Lower Costa property as a park, and we're applying for a small harbor improvement program, a SHIP grant, to help the planning and development of the pier at the Lower Costa property. So we're trying to take trying to take advantage of the water access that we have. The old Ken's Tackle Shop, I know that was brought up last time. When the fire occurred and then that was left, we didn't have a blight officer then, but our building inspector went down, we pursued it as blight, and then the state got involved and it was evaluated by the state and it was found to be structurally sound. And therefore the city cannot enforce the owner to take it down. So Is it an eyesore? Absolutely. Would the city mayor and council love to have that torn down? Yes, we would. But if the owner decides not to do that and takes no action, then there's not a whole lot that we could do. And that's one of the challenges that we have. But it's not like, okay, we're just going to leave it there and the city council knows and we don't care. We've actually taken action and the state has said it is structurally sound, so you can't just tear it down. It needs to be taken down by the owner.
Okay.
When we talk about investors, we need investors to help come in as well. The city doesn't have the pockets and the taxpayers don't have the will to put the money out to develop Thames Street because it would take a lot of money. But part of that is, why would they want to come here and what's in it for them? So it's a regional issue. So we, the city, are tied with the town, with the city of New London, with Waterford, with Ledyard, all the surrounding region, in order to bring people in. And then once we make that, that's all part of it. The region is part of it. Why would people want to come here and put shops there? Because the vision that I had, or that we had in the Community and Economic Development Committee, was you have shops on the bottom and you have condos on the top. And then you develop marinas down on the water. And then you develop businesses that attract both local people, but also bring in people, make it a destination location. They come in, they spend their money, and then they go home, and then everybody's happy. So those are the kinds of things that we're looking at on Thames Street.
Yeah, because Thames Street, when you go down there and you look across the river, you've got the train station and the ferry terminals right there.
Exactly.
And they seem so close, but yet so far.
I know. The Thames River can be a divider, but it can also be a uniter.
Well, we are all about water. We are a river town.
Yes, we are. And we want to take advantage of that as best as we can. And that's why we're looking at it from the Costa side, because that's something that the city can do. And then we are talking to people. We are talking to people and trying to get investors. But again, it's what's in it for them.
Right.
Because if I'm an investor and I'm going to invest a lot of money, what is my return? What's going to be in it for me? Why do I want to do this? And is the region going to accept me? And there's also things we could use like tax incremental financing and things like that we're working with the town, the planning guys in town, to see if we can use that here. And that is another tool in our toolbox that we can use for the development of Thames Street.
All right, well, we're getting down to just our last few minutes.
Okay.
Are there just some brief closing remarks that you would like to make before I take the camera away from you?
Sure. We are investing in infrastructure. We just had a $54 million bond approved for the water treatment plant. We're doing work on the Water Pollution Control Authority. We're replacing electric lines as we need to. We've been paving because we've had a road bond, so that's good. Like I said, we have diversity in the city, and we have diversity on the ticket. And I'm honored to serve as the deputy mayor in the city of Groton. And I encourage everybody to come out and vote Monday, May 1st, in 2017. I hope that we get your vote, but even if you don't vote for me, it's very important to get out and exercise your right to vote, because that's important. That's your voice, is to get out and vote.
Great.
So thank you very much.
Well, Keith, thank you for being my guest on Around the Town with Mark today.
Thank you, Mark.
And I wish you all the best of
Thank you.
luck in the
Thank you
upcoming
very much.
elections.
I
All right,
appreciate it.
well, thank you. And I want to thank my viewers for tuning in today. And like Keith said, May 1st, get out there and vote. It's your civic duty. If you want to be able to complain about something, you got to be active and you got to vote. So get out there and do that. And of course, always remember to tune back in to Around the Town with Mark. We'll have another great show coming up for you very, very soon. Have a great day and enjoy this spring.